Hi, I'm Ms. Chris. Today we'll be making reverse tie-dye t-shirts. There's going to be 3 different styles, so that way you can choose which one's your favorite, and you can also experiment once you know the basics, and find what works for you and keep exploring because there's so many different ways to tie-dye. To reverse tie-dye, you need to have a black t-shirt or really any other color shirt. It's reverse tie-dye because you're removing the color that's already there rather than normal tie-dyeing where you're adding color to a white shirt. It's also a really good chance to give new life to old faded t-shirts. If you still love them but you're looking kind of dingy, it's a way to kind of jazz them back up again and give them a second chance. The first step you want is to rinse out and wash your t-shirts. Make sure that they are thoroughly wet. You don't want them soaking wet though. So once they're wet, just wring them out. If they're not evenly wet, it is going to affect how everything bleaches out and dyes because it's going to absorb the bleach at different rates. And you don't want them dripping and soaking everywhere. You don't need that much water, just enough to be thoroughly wet. For our first style of tie-dye, we're just going to use a simple scrunch tie-dye. It's going to have blotches and spots. It's not going to be a specific design, it's going to be completely random. So you're just going to take your shirt after you've laid it flat, and there's no unintentional wrinkles, and you're just going to kind of crunch it up, gather it. You don't want to do anything too crazy with it, or too organized either. So it's just kind of a smushed up ball, and you're going to take your rubber bands, and you're just going to rubber band around it so it's a little disc. And you want it kind of tight, so that one part that was loose over here, just bring it in so it's with the rest of the shirt. And now that it's gathered, we're going to set it to the side. The next style of tie-dye that we're going to be doing is going to be a traditional spiral pattern. So you're going to choose where you want your spiral to start. If you want it in the bottom corner and then to work outwards, you're going to pinch there. If you want it dead center, pinch dead at the center. Choose where you want your spiral to start. So I'm going to put it just below the pattern, about dead center. You're going to pinch it, and then you're going to twist. And you're just going to keep twisting, and it's going to slowly pull the shirt in. And you're just going to keep twisting and twisting. And once you get about halfway, you're going to pull the shirt out so you really get those nice clean folds, which is going to give you a really sharp spiral. And keep that spiral all the way to the edges. It does take a little bit of extra time, but it is so worth it when you finish. And spiral, and just keep pulling those little folds out as you pull your spiral in. Once you're most of the way done, you can kind of finish it off by hand. And just adjust anything that you think looks a little wonky. So right here, that's a huge gather, so we want to pleat it a little bit smaller. And now we're going to rubber band that together. Like a hockey puck, or discus, or pizza, whatever circular shape you like. And you're just going to go across. And you don't want it to pucker up too much, how that is going. So it's starting to do that. Pull your spiral a little tighter, and that'll get it to be a firmer gathering and will keep it from pulling up weird. And the great thing about tie-dye is it's not meant to be perfect. It is supposed to be kind of an organic feeling, so you don't have to worry if it's not perfect. As long as you like it, that is what it needs to be. Make sure you put on your rubber gloves. Bleach is a caustic chemical. That's why we're outside right now, so that way we don't have to worry about the fumes being too strong. And also, it will ruin your hands. Make sure you wear clothing that you don't care about and don't mind if they get bleached, because it'll bleach these shirts, it'll bleach the clothes you're wearing as well. And this is a mixture that is half bleach, half water. So I did water it down a bit. And we are going to, for this moment, put this to the side. And we're just gonna drop some bleach on the one that's gathered and soak it through. So it's pretty wet. And we're not gonna know how this one looks until the end. And you can already see, at least I can see, I'm not sure if it's picking up on the camera, that it is starting to lighten already. And now we're gonna flip it over. And we're gonna bleach the underside as well, so not only the front, but also the back are bleached. And we're gonna let this sit. Now we're gonna take our spiral. I'm only gonna tie-dye half of it, so I'm only gonna bleach from the middle over. If you want to tie-dye your whole thing and want to have a lot of color compared to a lot of black, just bleach your whole top of your shirt. So I'm just gonna add the bleach. I'm gonna soak it pretty well on the one half. And I'm using one of the rubber bands as a guideline for where half is. And like it is soaking in, it's lightening up pretty fast. And now we're gonna flip it over like it's a pancake and bleach the underside so that way you can see it on both sides of your shirt, the design that you're making. And you can see it has been a minute and it's very orange. And when you feel that it has enough bleach on it, you are good. We're gonna put these to the side. Our next type of tie-dye is going to be a resist tie-dye. I'm putting down a cardboard piece because otherwise everything is already covered in bleach. So if you put your black shirt down, it's going to bleach where you don't want it to be. That'll wipe down your surface. However, I don't mind the back being bleached, so we're just gonna keep going with the shirt. You're gonna put down any kind of shape cut out of cardboard. Decide where you want it on your shirt, where it is. And then this is again a mixture of bleach and water, and you're going to spray. You're going to mist it, and it's going to create a splotch of bleach, but where your design is will remain black. And we're gonna put this to the side to let it set for a bit. And you can see on the edges it's already starting to go orange. Our shirts are to the side. I'm keeping an eye on them so that way they don't over bleach because it is damaging your shirt while it takes out the color. We are going to now make a mix of 1 cup hydrogen peroxide to a gallon of water. This mixture will deactivate the bleach and prevent it from continuing to dye or remove the color from your shirts, stopping the process where it is. So we're gonna add our cup of hydrogen. And our gallon of water. You can see now it's been maybe 10 minutes and this is super orange. To stop it from getting any lighter, we're just gonna put it right into our hydrogen mixture. And you can see it fizzing, and you're keeping your rubber bands on. And you're just gonna let it soak for about 20 minutes. We will now move on to our next step, which is making our soda ash bath. The soda ash will change the pH level of your shirt, which will then make it more capable of absorbing all of the dyes and having the dyes be a brighter, darker color. So we're just gonna open 1 small package of soda ash. Just follow the instructions on the package that you buy. That way you're making it correctly. Mine just calls for 1 package and then a gallon of water. And you wanna use hot water so that way it does fully dissolve. And since we're wearing gloves, we can just mix it with our hand. We don't have to worry about chemical reaction. That's why we do wear the gloves. And you don't want any chunks or grainy bits in your water mixture. We're going to leave the rubber bands on our shirts for the ones that do have rubber bands. And we're going to wring out as much of this mixture as we possibly can. Just squeeze it really good. And we leave the rubber bands on because if we take them off, then we're not going to have that spiral. It's going to be harder to dye. And we're just going to put it in there. And we're gonna let all these, now that they're in there, sit for 20 minutes and really soak up all of that soda ash and that mixture, and we're gonna let it soak. This one, I've decided that I want to just keep it as the bleached color. I did really like that color. So we're gonna just wring this out really, really well, and then we are going to rinse it out in a sink to get all the different chemicals out of it, and then we can open it up and see what it looks like. All right, our shirts have soaked, and now we are ready to dye them. So we're gonna take them out of our soda ash, and we're just gonna wring them out. Again, we don't want them super soaking wet, but they still need to be damp. So we're gonna put this to the side. And we're gonna take our first one, and we're gonna dye this one yellow. And even though it is a weird orange color and it's lighter and darker in different places, it is going to be different levels of yellow, but it is still going to dye over that weird orange color. Although this one bleached out pretty light since it was pretty faded to begin with. And we're just going to soak it. And you're going to soak it until the dye runs through the shirt. That way you know you're getting the inside. If you want to kind of just shove the nozzle in between some of the layers to make sure you're really getting in there. And you want to just soak it. The more you use, the more it's going to soak in, and we want a really nice, vibrant color. And once it starts dripping through to the bottom, we are good to flip it over. And I'm only using one color. If you want to use multiple colors and get a really colorful tie-dye, you would do pie wedges, and make sure your pie wedges are in the same order on the front and the back and that they're matched up. So yeah, this is like just soaking through at this point. So it should have enough dye in it. Also, I used all of the dye, which is a lot, but that's totally fine. This is the only shirt I'm making, so I'm not too worried about saving any of the dye. And we're gonna let this sit. We are going to lay it flat because it is a flat design. And this one I'm using a pink. And we're just gonna soak it, totally soak it. Like same thing, do one side, then flip it over. And now that everything has dye on it, it's been bleached, we have the hardest part. And that is we have to wait 24 hours before we can rinse it out and see what it looks like as our final result. So we're just gonna let these sit here. You can put them in a plastic bag and tie it off to try and keep all the dye in. I'm just gonna leave it sitting out, and I will see you tomorrow. It has been 24 hours, and we are now going to wash the dye out of our shirts using cold water.
Support public libraries. Like, share, and subscribe for more great videos.